Hey there everyone, Doug Spikes here, and today is February 11th, which is my birthday! So, you all voted for me to list out my top 10 favorite games that I have played over the years. And seeing that I've played several games over the years, this will be quite the challenge of deciding which ones will make the list and which ones probably won't. Now this list is going to be a mix of old and new games I have played over the previous 2 decades. Emphasis on played, which means if I haven't played a game, then it's not going to be on this list. Also, I have to think about which games in particular have both been lots of fun to play and also influenced me a lot in some shape and form. So, with that being said, let's travel back in time and see which games I loved growing up and which ones influenced me to where I am today. Number 10. Kirby Superstar Ultra. Now this is an interesting one considering that I haven't done much with it on the channel, but I certainly do have a history with playing this game a lot. You can even consider it one of my favorite DS games of all time. Now, why is this game on the top 10? Well, firstly, it's a fun Kirby remake. All the different main games like Spring Breeze, Dynablade, the Great Cave Offensive, etc. were a lot of fun to play through. And knowing this is a remake to a really old Kirby game by the name of Kirby Superstar kinda makes me feel bad for playing the remake over the original. But also really happy that this remake definitely gives love to the original, while also being a great game all on its own. Some of my favorite minigames include Meta Nightmare Ultra, the Arena/True Arena, and Dynablade. Now, what makes this the contender for this list of my favorite games of all time, besides all that? Well, it's simply one of the first games that I ever 100% completed. And honestly, I'm still proud of that to this day. I actually remember the last thing I needed to complete, which was getting one last treasure in the Great Cave Offensive, using the jet ability out of all things. FYI, that's one of the most cool looking abilities in Kirby history in my opinion. And the huge wave of satisfaction hit me once I opened up that treasure chest. Although I would really like to play Kirby Superstar Ultra on the channel, I unfortunately cannot figure out how I'm going to do it. Like, I know I have recording capabilities for the Switch, but for the DS and 3DS, not much beyond recording it with my iPad. Oh well, I guess I still consider it one of my favorite games of all time. With that being said, let's move on to number 9. Number 9, Dark Deception. Here's a nice and recent game that I just completed on the channel, basically ending up being one of my favorites I've played despite it not being finished. Now, why I love this game is the fact that I feel a certain feeling that makes me feel like I'm in a constant rush, if you get what I mean. It feels like no matter where I am in-game, I always have to keep an eye out, and as well as an ear out for any of the enemies. Speaking of which, I like many of the enemies in Dark Deception, despite getting frustrated at some of them at times. Some of my favorites include the Murder Monkeys, Clown Gremlins, the upcoming Joy Joy Gang, Trigger Teddies, and my personal favorite so far, the Dread Duckies, which I've actually named all Dread Duckies George, if you remember from my Let's Play series of Dark Deception. This game also pushes me hard to beat it. Heck, even easy mode is a challenge at times, but it's still possible to beat, which I am grateful for. Now, the reason why this game is so low on the list is because despite it being a really fun and intense game, it unfortunately hasn't finished all 5 chapters yet, which is quite a shame since if all 5 chapters were released, then maybe it would have been higher on this list. Oh well, at least chapter 4 is coming out soon, but I don't really want to rush chapter 4's development since it sounds like it's going to be by far the best chapter in gameplay and presentation. So I can't wait for its release in the first quarter of 2020. Unless it's like delayed again or something. At least that's what I was saying as of making this list. However, if it's announced like Dark Deception Chapter 4 is announced like in August or something, then I just want to say that this list was made before this was known. So I apologize in advance if this ends up actually happening. But with that being said, let's move on to number 8. Number 8, bday and the Ink Machine. Now, here's one game you must all recognize from the channel, from videos such as Makeshift Creations to the bday and the Ink Machine Let's Play I did on the channel, as well as the possible Let's Play of bday and the Dark Revival. So, what do I like about this game? Well, it's a lot of fun to play on the channel, from the story to the characters to some of the gameplay being fun too. Some examples I can think of are many of the ink bending moments we see throughout the game, many of my interactions with Boris, and some of the boss fights were pretty fun too in my humble opinion, at least. Now what elevates this pick above the other games mentioned so far is that I actually got to talk to many of the people who helped in creating the game, such as the voice actress for Alice Angel, Lauren Singer, and the creators of the games themselves, Mike Mood and The Meatly, at PAX East 2018, which was quite awesome in my opinion. But there's also one more thing that placed it this high on the list. It's simply because this game definitely was a factor in helping my channel grow a lot, and I appreciate so much for doing so. And I can't wait to play bday and the Dark Revival when it eventually comes out, or at least I hope it comes out. Also, the new Boris game is coming out before my birthday. Either way, bday and the Ink Machine is deserving of this spot on the list. So let's move on to my favorite number 7. Number 7, Sister Location. Ah yes, Sister Location, my second place choice for the best Finance Phrase games made by Scott Moley. So, what makes this one of the best games I've played? Well, I played the first 4 games of Finance Phrase, thinking that Finance Phrase 4, as well as FNAF World, were going to be the last games in the franchise. But then, after Finance Phrase World has teasers released, as well as the Silver Eyes getting teased as well, a couple of little lines got released onto ScottGames.com, being the next teaser for Scott's next game, which eventually, with the letters appearing, spelled out Sister Location. That was how Sister Location was first presented. At first, I didn't even know what to think about Sister Location, since I had no idea where FNAF could go at the time. But as more and more build-up happened for Sister Location, I got more and more hyped. Then, on October 7th, 2016, Sister Location finally got released, and I knew from first sight that it was going to be awesome. Now, there are many reasons why I love this game, from the voice acting, to the characters, and especially the gameplay. Yep, one of the main reasons I love this game is because the gameplay feels like a blend of old and new for Finest Phrase in a lot of different ways, and the nights felt like nothing we've ever seen before from FNAF at the time. I also remember a time back in October 7th, 2016, where I basically just was itching to watch gameplay of Sister Location so much that when it was the last class of the day, I literally bolted out of there when the bell rang to watch the first few gameplays of Sister Location by, I believe, Daco and Raspaski. Looking back on it now, I still have a good chuckle. And some of my favorite moments from Sister Location include the Funtime Foxy section of Night 3, the Breaker Room, Private Room, the Custom Night, as well as many, many more. So I bet you can see why Sister Location is one of my favorite FNAF games of all time, as well as being in my top 10 games so far. So, with that being said, let's move on to number 6. Number 6. Ultimate Custom Night. Ah yes, my favorite FNAF game if taking a look at the entire FNAF game series as a whole. Or at least the first 8 games, aka FNAF 1 all the way to Ultimate Custom Night. So, what makes this my favorite FNAF game made by Scott? Well, it was the main highlight of summer 2018 for quite some time, for one thing, with Scott versus Daco going on, and a lot of people trying to beat what is Scott's ultimate challenge. Some even tried to do it to this day. Now, although I kind of retired from trying to beat 50-20 mode, Ultimate Custom Night is still a blast to play every time I play. If you were playing this before Finance Phrase Help Wanted, then by far this would be the FNAF game that would have a lot of variety in gameplay, characters, controls, mechanics, etc. Heck, there's even office skins and power-ups, which adds more stuff to do in this game. It is definitely the most fun Finance Phrase game I've ever played, and even pushed me to do things I didn't even know I could do, like get 9,000 points as my high score. Also, thanks to this game, I think I am better at video games as a whole, hence why it has this placement on this list. So thank you Ultimate Custom Night for not only being the supposed punishment for William Afton, but also being really fun to play and pushing me harder to play more challenging video games in the future. So with that being said, let's move on to number 5. Number 5. Super Smash Bros. Brawl. So, Super Smash Bros. Brawl is my favorite Smash game, with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate coming in at a close second place. So, what makes Super Smash Bros. Brawl my favorite in the entire Smash Bros. Series? Well, I simply have a lot of nostalgic memories when revisiting this game, in particular, like unlocking my first few characters with my 2 aces the first time I played. Pikachu and Pokemon Trainer. Playing Brawl with my cousins, even messing around with the Yoshi strategy in Multi-Man Brawl for the first time, and also there actually being a real story in mode for Super Smash Bros. For the first time at least. Which I think we can all remember to be the infamous Subspace Emissary. I remember this being quite the fun story mode to play, and if I wasn't so busy with other things on the channel, I would so play it as a Let's Play. For those of you too young not to know what Subspace is, then I wouldn't want to spoil the surprise here. Let's just say it's a really fun adventure featuring what was the Avengers Endgame of the early 2000s. at least in my opinion. But the main reason I love this Smash game so much is simply because it introduced me to video games outside of Pokemon at the time, and introduced me to many other characters that I still love to this day, such as Kirby, Sonic, and heck, Mr. Jumpman himself, Mario. So, for that main reason as well as the other reasons, I say it's worthy of being on the spot of this list. So, let's move on to number 4. Number 4, Pokemon Soul Silver. Okay, this is a super interesting one, as I actually have never played it officially on the channel. Though my younger self definitely had a bit of a fun time with this game, basically making for Ash and Red video. Yes, that actually existed. Now, this was a terribly tough call, considering this was honestly tied in my mind with Pokemon Platinum. Though, in the end, Pokemon Soul Silver came a lot closer to this number 4 spot, since I can honestly remember a lot more about this game than Pokemon Platinum. So, what can I remember about this game? Well, I honestly remember this being my first look into a brand new Pokemon region. Since before this, all I knew was the Sinnoh region. But then, this game actually expanded my view on the Pokemon world. And I definitely have some good memories with this game in particular. For example, my starter was Cyndaquil, which then evolved into a Typhlosion, which was really strong but didn't really have a great moveset in my opinion. But it was enough for me to get through the game. Also, I remember getting to experience both the Johto and Kanto regions for the first time through this game. It was honestly a lot of fun going to places such as the fierce battle with Lugia on the Whirl Islands, I remember them being called, the Pokeathlon, which I basically played with friends before, the Red Gyarados, some of the gym battles like with Claire, and many more, including one of my favorite modes in gaming history, the fight with Red. Oh my goodness. It's also one of the few games I actually used to play with friends, like I just said, and actually helped me improve as a Pokemon trainer. There's a lot more I could say about this game, but I think it's only fair to start to wrap things up with this entry. Actually, speaking of the next entry, remember what I said about Sinnoh? Well, let's move on to the next entry, and I'll show you what I mean. Cause trust me, the next few entries are going to relate to this region a lot. Number 3, Pokemon Battle Revolution. Yep, good old Pokemon Battle Revolution is here at number 3. My second most personal favorite Wii game of all time. Now, what makes this spin-off Pokemon title one of my personal favorites, and in my opinion, really underrated, is firstly this Pokemon game is filled with one of my favorite aspects of Pokemon, that being the battles. Each stadium has its own unique way of having Pokemon battles, like for example, having a spinner to select what Pokemon you'll be battling with, having a league battle similar to the Johto Pokemon anime, or even flat out having the opportunity to choose what mix of your team and the opponent's team will do the battling, or having the same amount of health, like in one round where you got damaged a lot, then it would have that same amount of damage. Jeez, that is quite a lot on its own. But if you thought that was good, it gets better when you get to link your own Pokemon DS game to Pokemon Battle Revolution and battle alongside your own Pokemon in this game too. And believe me when I say that will be monumentally helpful in the post-game if you decide to play it. Oh yeah, and did I mention that this spin-off Pokemon game had a post-game, surprisingly, that has quite a bit of to do that I won't spoil here. All I'm going to say is that if the true final boss of this game were an actual Pokemon champion in the Pokemon games, oh goodness, he would be by far the hardest trainer to defeat. I still can't even beat him to this day without losing horribly to his legendary Pokemon. Yeah, depending on which game you've got, you'll either have to battle Dialga or Palkia, or any of the other Pokemon like Mewtwo, Latios, Manaphy possibly. The list goes on. But who knows, maybe I'll beat him one day in the post-game. But until then, let's move on to my second place entry of this list. Number 2, Pokemon Diamond. Here we go, Pokemon Diamond. Now, I'm really ashamed that I haven't played this on the channel, because this game is definitely special to me. And honestly, I am a bit frustrated that I can't play it on the channel right now, since Pokemon Diamond was actually, you ready for this? My first introduction to gaming as a whole. Yep, you heard that right. This game was my first video game ever. So, of course it would be this high up on the list. Now, I can remember me basically being a noob when I reached Eterna City, since I basically didn't know where to go next after Eterna City, and just got stuck on Route 211. And since I didn't know how to use HMs at the time, it was, boy. I'm just glad I know what to do now. Basically, when I figured out how to use HMs for the first time, man, this was by far one of my favorite Pokemon generations, period. I am so happy this was also my first introduction to Pokemon 2, since, well, let me list off a few reasons actually. It has gym puzzles for the very first time, having fun areas to explore like Mount Coronet, many of the cities, many of the seas, Victory Road, some of the beginning towns too, and also having a cool champion, introducing me to some of my personal favorite Pokemon, and the list goes on. Yeah. Oh man. Also, I've heard people say that they want a Diamond and Pearl remake, and I just want to say that I'm a Diamond and Pearl fan myself. And while it may be an awesome, what am I kidding? It would be an awesome opportunity to play Pokemon Diamond and Pearl on the Switch, I'm not going to demand that Game Freak make the remake, since, well, considering that we have the Sword and Shield DLC coming out, as well as Pokemon Mystery Dungeon remake, as well as the other Pokemon things like mobile games, the anime, yeah. Basically, they just have a lot of their plate right now. Now, the reason why I didn't put Platinum on the list, despite it being an awesome game too, and expanding on Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, is simply because without Pokemon Diamond, I wouldn't have discovered Pokemon Platinum or any other game in my earlier years of being alive. And a discovery of gaming as a whole. That, like, say in 2013 or 2012, I wouldn't have made that much of a lasting impact at the time. So I want to say thanks so much to Pokemon Diamond for being basically my first Pokemon generation Pokemon game, and basically my first ever video game, period. Also, if you were wondering, I chose Torterra for my starter. So, what could possibly top my first ever video game on this list? Well, let's find out after some honorable mentions. So, the honorable mentions are Super Mario Odyssey. This one definitely is my favorite Mario game, since, well, it feels like a fun adventure with worlds that feel like giant playgrounds. Though, why it isn't on the list despite it being a really fun adventure is the fact that it's only been out for 3 years and hasn't really had that much time to give an impact on me yet. Hence why it's an honorable mention. However, I might play on the channel in the future as a Let's Play. Any of the FNAF games I've played, not mentioned on here. Okay, you might be wondering why there's a lack of finest phrase on this list, despite it being one of my favorite game series of all time. And that was because I didn't want the main focus to be on finest phrase, and wanted other games to have the spotlight too. Though, if this video does well, I might do a list of my favorite FNAF games in the future. Who knows? Kirby's Return to Dreamland, 2 Star Allies. Honestly, I love these games as well. Heck, it might be my personal favorite era as a Kirby fan. I even played it as my very first Let's Play on the channel back when I had Windows Movie Maker. Well, at least my beginnings used to be cringy too. Anyways, I love each of these games equally as much, since they all kinda have the same core gameplay, only with a gameplay add-on only for that game. Which is why, unfortunately, I had to make all of these games an honorable mention, despite me loving them all equally. Who knows, maybe Kirby's Return to Dreamland or Kirby's Planet Robobot could be number 11? Nah. This is a top 10 list. Sonic Unleashed. Here's my favorite Sonic game. Also, if you were wondering which version I played the Wii version, which was still pretty fun, and was admittedly not as great looking as the Xbox version, but still pretty good. Now, I remember me and my best friend Pyro Alumni, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out his channel, it'll be in the iCard up above, worked together to eventually beat the Wii version of the game, and won against Dark Gaia. I was actually considering replaying it on the channel too. Pokemon Platinum. An honorable mention that was painful to make an honorable mention, but unfortunately it had to be reduced to an honorable mention simply because it's like Pokemon Diamond, but with a good amount of additional content, like Battle Frontier, getting both Dialga and Palkia in a Sinnoh game, some new Sinnoh evolutions getting spotlighted now, like they were in Diamond Pearl originally, but they didn't get spotlighted as much, and Shaman's Skyform, as well as Box Art Legendary Giratina getting an Origin form. But unfortunately, compared to Diamond, it didn't really have the whole introducing me to video games aspect to make it on this list. Though honestly, I did really have to choose between Soul Silver and Platinum for the number 4 spot on this list. And who knows, maybe if I didn't choose Soul Silver for number 4, Platinum would have made the list. Kirby's Epic Yarn. Now, this is an interesting honorable mention since it's the only one not on the script. I completely forgot to put it on the script as of post-editing. Yeah, I'll just talk freely about this without a script. So, Kirby's Epic Yarn was definitely a really fun game, as well as a fun Kirby spin-off game, personally being my favorite. Due to the fact that, well, at the time, I didn't really see anything like this on the Wii before. Like, the whole clothing style this game's got going on. It really was fun to see all the creative scenarios Kirby could get into, and many of the enemy designs. Basically, it felt like a quilt was a game that was fun. And I gotta give props to HAL Laboratories for doing that. Making a game that looks like a quilt that you sleep on look fun. And some of my favorite memories are like the boss battles, some of the levels, and many more. Although, if I had to choose a reason why this had to be an honorable mention, it was because of it didn't really impact me as much, as well as the train power-up being really frustrating to control. But enough about that. Finally, let's move on to number 1, my personal favorite game of all time. Number 1, Pokepark 1 and Pokepark 2. Yep, Pokepark 1 and 2 are both number 1 on this list. I'm sorry everyone, I just couldn't decide between these two games, since they both bring me so much joy whenever I play them. Sure, it's a bit simple, basically in every department, but to be frank, I kinda like taking a break from games with complex story and or gameplay, like Finance Phrase, Dark Deception, Bendy and the Ink Machine, heck even sometimes Mario and Sonic. It's just nice to relax and simply have fun with a video game, to just take the world in and not really have that much to do except have fun. Just in case you haven't played Pokepark 1 or 2 for yourself, it's like playing through a game that's based off one of those Pikachu shorts that I used to play before every single Pokemon movie. For example, Pokepark 1, Pikachu's Adventure has Pikachu's Save the Sky Paddling, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, by simply making as many friends as possible while traveling through what I like to call Pokepark 1-Up. Also, for Pokepark 2 Wonders Beyond, Pikachu and the Unova starters this time have to save Pokepark from a unknown world called Wish Park, since Pokemon have acted weirdly depending on the zone in which park that they inhabit. And again, the goal is kind of the same, but with a bit more at stake, being saving all the Pokemon in Wish Park. In my opinion, these games, while there are games I'm hyped up for, like say Dark Deception Chapter 4, Finest Phrase 2020, and Bendy and the Dark Revival, and possibly a Super Mario Odyssey sequel, it's just been kind of boring seeing games try to outclass each other, make big new stuff to do, big worlds, big things to do, like, oh no, the end of the world is coming and you gotta save it, or stuff like that. grand adventures. And it's just kind of fun and feels nice, where I can just describe a story in just a couple of sentences like I did with Pokemon. And of course, any game with Pikachu as the main character is getting up there as one of my favorite games, without question. Now, some Pokepark fans have been hoping for a Pokepark 3 to be in the works. And I really want to say there can be one, but I don't think that's all that likely, considering that we haven't heard much Pokepark in a 7-year span. And the whole Pokemon talking to each other thing already exists, maybe in the main canon with the Pokemon Sword and Shield with the Pokemon camps, but the main Pokemon talking to each other thing was introduced in Pokemon Mystery Dungeon. But I don't really blame Pokemon Mystery Dungeon for doing it, since technically it did do it first. Yeah, sorry to say, everybody. However, if I were to design a Pokepark 3 game, I would really like to do it in between now and just before Generation 9, since Galar definitely could bring up some interesting concepts. Like, what if Pokepark 3 was kind of like Galar, in a way where there was a champion of a yearly Pokemon tournament, and the story was basically based around weird Dynamax phenomenons that were acting like Wish Park in a way, where Pokemon would act weird, grow giant, and in some cases you would have to have like boss battles with Gigantamax Pokemon that would appear in Pokepark 3. And I would suspect maybe a Wish Park 2.0. Yeah, rambling on a bit. Guess that's how much I love the game, huh? Especially when I'm making up stuff that a Pokepark 3 could potentially have. But anyways, I think it's time we should wrap this entry up now. In conclusion, Pokepark 1 and Pokepark 2 are both basically my personal favorite games of all my 20 years of being a gamer. And if a Pokepark 3 ever got announced for the Switch, or whatever future Nintendo console comes out, you all can definitely expect some form of a Let's Play on the game whenever it comes out. Oh man. Just saying that makes me all giddy inside, but I'm not going to build up my expectations, since that just leads to disappointment in the end if it doesn't actually happen. But hey, it's okay to dream. And that wraps it up for this countdown, as well as my hiatus on videos for quite a while. Honestly, after making this list, it kind of makes me want to do more list videos in the future, since it was really fun making a video like this. I have been thinking about some list videos I like to try out in the future, like a top 10 finest phrase games, or an easy to hard level list of Dark Deception. But we'll save that for the future. So with that being said, be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe to this channel, as well as my 2 other channels, aka Dylan Spike Square Series and Dylan Spike Square's second channel. And also, if you already have 10 games that you consider a favorite, you can comment that too. I'd love to hear it. Maybe, who knows, maybe you'll have a different opinion than me. It's not like that's possible. I'm joking. Of course that is possible. And with that being said, I'm 20-year-old Dylan Spikesword, and I shall be seeing you, all of you wonderful people, next time. Alright, See you later, everyone. Bye-bye from 20-year-old Dylan Spikes Word.